Welcome back to In the Know Book Edition.
Thanks for having me.
For episode 2, we're diving into Kristin Hannah's The Women.
Oh, a great choice.
It's a novel that unveils a side of the Vietnam War we rarely see. The experiences of women who served.
For sure.
You might think you know this period, but trust me.
Yeah.
Get ready to have some of those assumptions challenged.
Absolutely.
You're going to learn a lot.
You really are. The Women flips the script on the typical Vietnam War narrative.
It really does.
Instead of focusing on soldiers and battles, we're plunged into the world of the Army Nurse Corps.
Wow.
It's a powerful counterpoint to the often male-dominated historical accounts we're used to.
It really is. And it's not just about filling a gap in history.
Right.
The book's opening line packs a punch. The women had a story to tell, even if the world wasn't quite yet ready to hear it. And their story began with 3 simple words.
Wow.
We were there.
How?
It instantly throws down the gauntlet, doesn't it?
It does.
Like a declaration that these women's presence and experiences matter.
Exactly.
Wow.
It sets the stage for a story about resilience, about finding your voice even when the world isn't ready to listen.
So powerful.
And at the heart of this story is our protagonist, Frankie McGrath.
Frankie. Now, Frankie isn't some hardened war veteran.
No.
She starts as a young nursing student, pretty sheltered, but deeply idealistic.
Yeah.
She joins the Army Nurse Corps believing women can be heroes too, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of Vietnam.
I can imagine this contrast between her initial naivete and the harsh realities of war is so brilliantly done. It's not just about the physical dangers, but the emotional and psychological toll. Hannah captures the rawness of it all, the chaos of the operating room, the profound loss, the moments of camaraderie that help them survive.
There's a scene that really stuck with me.
Oh, tell me.
Frankie's describing a surgery.
Okay.
And she says, "We were surrounded by blood and bone and the desperate prayers of men who wanted to live."
Wow.
The way Hannah writes it, you're right there with Frankie. Feeling the weight of those lives in her hands. It goes way beyond a textbook description of war.
Right.
It's visceral.
Absolutely. And that's one of Hannah's strengths.
That is.
She doesn't shy away from the brutality, but she also highlights those glimmers of humanity, the dark humor, the fierce loyalty between the nurses.
I love that.
It's this contrast that makes the characters and their struggles feel so real, so relatable.
It does.
It really does.
But what really hits home is the disconnect between Frankie's experiences in Vietnam and her return home.
Oh, yeah.
It's like stepping out of one war zone and into another, right?
Into another one,
Wow.
It's a jarring transition. Imagine the societal context of the time. Anti-war protests, negative perceptions of Vietnam veterans. Now layer on top of that the unique challenges faced by women who served. Their contributions were often ignored, their trauma minimized. It's like they were fighting on 2 fronts.
Wow.
One abroad and one back home.
So powerful.
Really is.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
Here's Frankie, having witnessed horrific things, saved lives, experienced profound loss. And she comes back to a country that doesn't want to acknowledge her sacrifices. Let alone provide support.
It's tough.
It's isolating, to say the least.
It really is. And this is where The Women really delves into a crucial conversation about how we as a society address the needs of veterans, particularly women who have been historically marginalized. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the gap between the heroic narratives we associate with war and the often neglected realities of its aftermath.
It's a big gap.
It is.
And this isn't just a fictional account.
No.
Hannah's research is meticulous.
It is.
She brings to light the actual historical context of the Army Nurse Corps in Vietnam. The challenges they faced, the medical innovations they pioneered, their dedication to their patients.
It's incredible.
It gives the story a whole other dimension, knowing these women actually lived through this.
It does. You're absolutely right.
It's powerful.
It grounds the narrative in reality and serves as a powerful testament to the women whose stories have often been overlooked or minimized in historical accounts of the Vietnam War.
Absolutely.
The Women forces us to confront those silences and to recognize the complexities of war and its impact on individuals and society as a whole.
So powerful.
It really is.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. So we talked about Frankie's struggles to reintegrate into civilian life.
Yeah.
But there's this one scene where she visits a war memorial, and she's overwhelmed by grief.
Oh, wow.
Realizing her name isn't on it alongside the fallen soldiers.
Yeah.
It's a powerful metaphor for the erasure of women's contributions in war.
It really is a gut-wrenching moment, and it speaks volumes about the way we often compartmentalize war experiences.
Yeah.
The book challenges us to think beyond the battlefield and acknowledge the multifaceted impact on those who serve, especially women.
And this isn't just a Vietnam War issue.
No, it's not.
Think about how often women's roles in conflicts throughout history have been relegated to the sidelines, focused on support roles rather than the complex realities they faced.
You're so right.
It's sad.
Yeah, it is. The Women prompts us to consider how our understanding of history might shift if we actively sought out these marginalized perspectives.
Powerful stuff.
It really is. It's about recognizing the diverse ways individuals contribute to war efforts and how those contributions shape the course of events.
The book also delves into the medical aspects of the war, something we don't often see in popular narratives.
Not really.
Frankie and her fellow nurses are on the front lines of treating horrific injuries.
Yes.
Pushing the boundaries of medical knowledge.
Absolutely.
In incredibly challenging circumstances.
Really is. What's fascinating is how Hannah weaves in historical details about the Army Nurse Corps. Their training, the medical innovations they pioneered, the sheer volume of casualties they dealt with. It adds a layer of depth to the story and underscores the vital role these women played in saving lives.
It does. There's a passage where Frankie describes the operating room as a chaotic ballet of blood and bone.
Wow, that's powerful.
It highlights the physical and emotional demands placed on these nurses.
Right.
The constant pressure, the life or death decisions they had to make every day.
Every single day. And beyond the technical skills, they provided emotional support to wounded soldiers, often acting as a bridge between the battlefield and the world these men were fighting to return to.
Such an important role.
It really is. The book gives us a glimpse into the human cost of war.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of casualties, but also the psychological and emotional toll on those who witnessed it firsthand.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that healing from war isn't just about physical recovery.
So true.
The invisible wounds, the trauma, the grief, the survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
These can be even more debilitating.
They really can be.
And for women like Frankie, who often didn't have the same avenues of support as their male counterparts.
Exactly.
Those wounds could fester for years.
Absolutely. And this is where the book's exploration of PTSD is so crucial. It goes beyond the stereotypical image of the shell-shocked veteran and delves into the nuances of how trauma manifests differently in individuals. We see Frankie struggling with nightmares, flashbacks, and a deep sense of isolation that she can't quite articulate, let alone share with those around her.
So sad.
It really is. It's heartbreaking.
It is, because she wants to connect to be understood, but the world she returns to seems so disconnected from the realities she experienced in Vietnam.
This sense of disconnect is a recurring theme in literature about war.
It is.
But The Women adds a layer of complexity by highlighting the gendered aspects of trauma and recovery. It forces us to confront the ways in which women's experiences of war have been minimized or dismissed, both historically and in contemporary society.
It makes you wonder how many stories like Frankie's have been silenced or overlooked simply because they didn't fit the dominant narrative of what a war hero or a war victim should look like.
And this is why books like The Women are so important.
I agree.
They challenge our assumptions, expand our understanding of history, and encourage us to seek out those missing voices. Yeah. To listen to the stories that haven't always been given a platform.
They deserve to be heard.
They really do.
It's about recognizing the multifaceted nature of war.
Yes.
And its impact, moving beyond simplistic binaries of heroes and villains, victims and survivors.
Right.
And acknowledging the complex spectrum of human experience that unfolds in the aftermath of conflict.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how The Women balances those harrowing war experiences with moments of incredible strength and resilience. The bonds formed between these nurses, their fierce loyalty to each other.
Absolutely.
It's a powerful testament to the human spirit, isn't it?
It really is.
It's beautiful.
Hannah captures this beautifully, particularly the dynamic between Frankie and her fellow nurses. Wow. These aren't just friendships, they're lifelines.
We are.
Forged in the crucible of shared trauma and unwavering support.
It's amazing.
It is. They laugh together, cry together, and ultimately they help each other survive.
That's powerful.
It is.
There's a line that really struck me.
Oh, yeah.
One of the nurses says,
okay.
"We were sisters bound by blood and bandages."
Wow.
It speaks to the depth of those connections.
It really does.
How they transcended the horrors of war and became a source of strength and healing.
And it highlights a crucial point that's often overlooked in discussions about war.
What's that?
The power of collective healing. These women weren't just tending to physical wounds.
Right.
They were tending to each other's souls.
It's beautiful.
It is. They created a space where vulnerability was met with compassion, where shared experiences fostered a sense of belonging and understanding that they couldn't find anywhere else.
But the tragedy is that these strong bonds, this sense of community, is exactly what Frankie loses when she returns home.
It is. It's so sad.
She's thrust back into a world that doesn't understand her.
Right.
A society that's struggling to grapple with the complexities of the war.
Yeah.
And she's left feeling isolated and adrift.
Exactly. It's a stark contrast.
It is.
And it speaks to a larger issue.
What's that?
The lack of adequate support systems for veterans, particularly women, as they reintegrate into civilian life.
That's a problem.
It really is.
The Women doesn't shy away from depicting the struggles Frankie faces, trying to reconcile her wartime experiences with the expectations of a society that wants to move on, to forget.
It's tough. And this disconnect is compounded by the fact that she's a woman.
Right.
Society wasn't quite ready to see women as veterans, as individuals who had endured the same horrors and carried the same burdens as their male counterparts.
It's so unfair.
It is. You're hitting on a crucial point here.
Yeah.
The intersection of gender and trauma.
Okay.
The Women, forces us to consider how societal expectations and stereotypes can hinder the healing process, particularly for those whose experiences fall outside the dominant narrative.
It makes you think about how many veterans, especially women, have suffered in silence.
There's so many.
Their stories untold, their struggles dismissed or minimized because they didn't fit the mold of the typical war hero.
And this is precisely why books like The Women are so vital. They challenge those preconceived notions. They give voice to the marginalized. And they expand our understanding of what it means to serve, to suffer, and to heal.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Women, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think first and foremost, it's a reminder that history is multifaceted. There are countless stories waiting to be told, perspectives that have been silenced or overlooked, and it's our responsibility to seek them out.
I agree.
To broaden our understanding of the past.
Absolutely. And secondly, it's a call to empathy.
Yes.
To recognize the enduring impact of trauma, particularly on those who have served in war.
It's important.
Let's be more mindful of the invisible wounds.
Absolutely.
The struggles that aren't always visible.
Beautifully put.
Thanks.
And I think the final takeaway, and perhaps the most powerful one, is the enduring strength of the human spirit. Despite the horrors depicted in The Women, there's a glimmer of hope that shines through.
There is.
A testament to the power of human connection.
Resilience and the will to survive.
For Women is a challenging read.
It is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But it's also an incredibly rewarding one.
It really is.
It stays with you long after you close the book, prompting reflection, challenging assumptions, and ultimately leaving you with a deeper understanding of the human experience.
And that, I think, is the hallmark of great literature.
It is.
It's not just about entertainment. It's about illumination.
Yeah.
About prompting us to see the world and ourselves in a new light.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Women.
It was a pleasure.
We hope it's inspired you to pick up this powerful story.
I hope so.
And delve into its depths.
Yes.
Until next time, keep those pages.